Sports stories from the 419 in Northwest Ohio, brought to you by a voice you know. It's time to go around the area and around the Hearn.
Welcome to a new edition of Around the Hearn. We kick off the month of October. I realize it's been a while. That's because sports has been in full swing and been a little busy. And again, as I've always said, chasing around a toddler is kind of its own thing. But a big show today. We talk about Western Buckeye League soccer with St. Mary's standout Ariel Fast. And talk a little bit more about soccer as well as football, volleyball, and all things revolving around the Kenton Wildcats with the sports editor of the Kenton Times in Sean Blevins. They are both highly articulate. There is a lot of good things coming up from them in just a few. But a look around the area starts with a sad note, and I want to give my thoughts and prayers to the Riverdale community. They lost a terrific young man in Chase Clark, who graduated from Riverdale in 2023 and passed away a couple of days ago. Just a lot of people can't say enough good things about this young man, and he will be sorely missed. Area soccer news, Bluffton boys soccer team finishes 4-0 in the Northwest Conference to win the 9th straight title in the NWC. Not only have the Pirates never lost the Northwest Conference game, they're 42-0. But in the 9 years that the Northwest Conference has offered a boys soccer title, they've taken them all. Speaking of teams on a pretty good roll right now. Number 1 ranked Fort Loramie Redskins won another top 10 showdown. That's pretty much what they do. They beat number 9 Marion Local yesterday. And Loramie grad Kenzie Holscher led Findlay to a 3-0 weekend last week. It was rewarded with the GMAC Defensive Player of the Week award. Russia boys golf, they're headed to state. They finished number 2 in the districts, and maybe one of the biggest pieces of news comes from Defiance this week, as it's being reported by the Crescent News, among others, that Defiance College is going to drop down to NAIA and forego their NCAA membership. One of 5 teams that will join NAIA in the next couple of years. State football polls have Coldwater number 2 in Division 5, Liberty Center number 3. Division 6 Versailles reigns supreme as the number 1 team in all of the land. Bluffton, though, creeping up there in 6th and unbeaten, as they are one of just a couple of unbeatens in the Northwest Conference. Marion Local in 1. They're pretty good. Tim Goodwin, the head coach of the Flyers since 1999, got his 300th career win last Friday night. Big congratulations to him. Patrick Henry, number 5. Antwerp, number 6. Minster, number 10 in Division 7. Volleyball polls have Shawnee, number 5. Liberty Bet, number 14 in Division 2. Coldwater, number 2 in Division 3. St. Henry, number 3. Fort Recovery, number 8. Versailles, 15. Fairview, number 20. And then D4. That is a Northwest Ohio smorgasbord. Fort Loramie at 1. Bremen at 2, the team they beat to get to number 1. Crestview at 4 after hosting their invitational last weekend. It was delayed by fog and won by a team from Indiana. But the Knights did beat the Lady Titans of Ottawa Glandorf in the first round. Lipsick in 8th, Marion Local 9, Jackson Center 10, Russia 13, and a different blue and gold of Miller City 17, more blue and gold, 19 for Sidney Lehman, and then the blue and gold of St. John's tied for 20th with Minster. The only other thing really going on in the area, it is big news for the first time since 1997. The Ottawa Glandorf girls can call themselves Western Buckeye League tournament champions. The tennis team picked up that win. They split the season title with Shawnee during the regular year, but were able to knock off the Indians in the finals and take that big gold trophy. They're running out of room there in Ottawa. They'll find it. So that is a quick look at what is going on around the area. When we come back, I just want to get to these interviews because I really enjoyed talking to these two human beings in Ariel Fast and Sean Blevins. That is when we come back here in just a few on Around the Hearn.
It's finally football season, and here at Lee Kitzel GM Sales and Service in Vanward, we're here to help you score a touchdown. We'll make the necessary in-game adjustments to make sure you get the win. We won't stop grinding until the whistle blows. Yep, it's 110% effort all the time. We might even bite a kneecap off.
What Eric McCracken means is you'll leave happy when you get your next vehicle at Lee Kitzel, and you'll also be happy with their service after the sale. Lee Kitzel GM Sales and Service, 650 West Irvin Road, Van Wert, LeeKitzel.com, or 866-LEE-KITZEL.
Touchdown! Woo!
Back into talking soccer with a standout from St. Mary's and Ariel Fast, who is getting ready to finish up her regular season. As crazy as that sounds, I was looking at that. Has it hit you yet that you have just 4 more games left in your last regular season?
No, not at all. I still feel like I'm a freshman. I can't believe even you saying right now that there's only 4 games left. I still don't believe it.
But hopefully you'll have many more games because you guys are set for a very long tournament run.
Right.
What's that been like the last couple of years? A team that before really you got there, if you look at the number of years, that had just one long regional appearance, and you guys have done it twice in the last 3 years. What did you learn from the first one that really helped you last year?
I think I learned the first year, it's just you get out of what you put in. I mean, my freshman year, it seemed like the big talk was how amazing Bath was, which they were very great, but it felt like, I don't know, I was like, can we do what they have done? And especially as the season got longer and longer, it was just who wanted it more. And we really wanted to go far, and we played a couple really, really good teams in tournament. And I think that after we beat one, it was like, we all realized, wow, like we can go really far. So I think that it was just realizing that what we put together, that we worked on the whole season, can get us super far.
The game that always sticks out to me during that run is the district finals with LB. You guys went 3-2 in a shootout. How nerve-wracking is that? Because for a lot of the game, the way that Nick puts his faith in you as a leader, you being the forward, you have a lot of responsibility for how the game turns out. But with that one, you kind of take your one kick, and it's pretty much completely out of your hands.
Yeah. That game, we were down 2-0 pretty much since the beginning of the game. They scored 2 in like the first 10 minutes, but I just knew, I had a feeling inside of me that we weren't going to lose. Like that was the senior class that graduated last year, was some of those girls were my best friends that I've ever played with in my life. And I think that that's what really kept us going, is we didn't want it to be our last game together. And stepping up to the PK line, even the offensive side, I had faith in my teammates. I knew they could put the ball away. But having Ella as my keeper on the defensive side is just a huge relief, because she's one of the best keepers in the state. So having that sense of insurance makes you that more comfortable at the PK line.
I won't ask you for a specific thing because I don't want you to give anything away for anybody else. But when you go up there, do you have a thought in your head about what you're going to do, which way you're going to go, where you're going to try to place it? Or can you read the keeper's body language, or is it just kind of a lot of chance? You kick a ball and then hope that they don't guess that way.
I think for me, when I'm at the line, there's a lot going through my head, but I've taken a lot of PKs in my life. I've missed a few, and the times that I've missed it, I think is the times that I overthought. So when I get to the line, I close my eyes, take a few deep breaths, and just kick it.
Well, that works. I think it'd be bad for me because I'd be singing a song or something, and they'd be like, could you kick the ball now? Oh, sorry. Let me get to the chorus first.
Yeah, I try to get myself centered because I'm the same way.
This season, you guys have taken on some really good teams. Ontario is one that really sticks out to me in the early part of the season. You have a long history with them. But yesterday, an absolutely terrifically cool experience. You get to play where the crew play, the national teams play at Lower.com Field against a very good Canfield team. First, before we get to the game, what was that experience like for you?
It was super surreal. It was like, some really, really, really amazing athletes have played on that field before. So getting the opportunity to play there is just like, it's nothing I've ever experienced before. It's the coolest place I've ever played in my life, and you don't come around that opportunity too often. So it was super, super cool.
Other than Rough Rider Field, of course.
Right. I love Rough Rider Field. That will always be I take it back. Rough Rider Field is always my favorite field to play on.
Is it just because at the end of the game, when you guys win, you've had a pretty good record there, that you get to bang a giant cowbell?
That really helps. The atmosphere, the sunsets there are just so nice.
Do you find yourself lost in that? Like during a game, you're just dribbling down the field and you're looking up like, oh, that's really neat.
Not necessarily during the game, but like when there's pictures after the game, it's just like, ooh, that's a good one.
What's this experience been like for you? Obviously, you play a high-level club schedule. You play with a lot of girls in the area, and does that lend itself to being good or bad when you play teams like Ottawa Glandorf, where you know those girls, that they know you, but you know a little bit of them? I mean, is there any kind of advantage or disadvantage there?
I think it's kind of a disadvantage for me because they know me. They know what I like to do as a player, or a lot of times they'll man mark me or double team me. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal. Like I actually really enjoy playing against my friends from club or just the people I know through soccer in the area. And on the field, I mean, we're both there to win. So I think both sides of the other team and myself do what we can to win. But at the end of the day, I think that playing against my friends it's not something that I'll always be able to do. So I'm kind of grateful that I have that opportunity while I'm still in high school.
I get the feeling from watching you, from hearing people talk about you, that you are pretty driven by things I can do better, how I can improve. When you walk off and you have something like when you guys tied Shawnee last week, did that eat at you because you immediately go to, maybe if I had kicked the ball a little bit differently, or if we'd have just had one more bounce, or are you able to let that go and go, well, we didn't lose?
Kind of a little bit of both. I mean, every time I walk off the field, I am itching and waiting for film to come out, because every single game, I know there's things that I can improve on, or there's one or two shots in a game that I should have made. And if I would have made that, then we would have won the game. But so I think for maybe the next day or two, I'm hyper focused on those. But if I keep, if I would have scored that one shot, and I keep getting on myself about it, then it's just gonna be a mental block. So maybe if I miss a few shots one game, the next day I go out after practice and shoot an extra 100 shots, and then I have another game the next day. So I got to forget and move on.
Your head coach, Nick Wilson, said about this trip to Columbus that the atmosphere was great and that you guys enjoyed everything about it, obviously, except for the result. What was it about Canfield? He mentioned that their team speed is unlike nothing that you guys have seen. Were you able to adapt to that at any point, or just kind of you guys were constantly reacting? Because, I mean, they hit a couple of – the corner kick was kind of a ridiculous shot that just bent perfectly, and the one from the top of the box right before that, the girl just clubbed it, and I'm not even sure that Ella even saw it.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like once they scored that first goal, everything just all happened at one time. So it's kind of hard to control and like take a step back and get our momentum moving again, because for the first 20 minutes or so of the game, we were really in it. We were knocking on the door, and then they just hit one and it just kept piling in. And when that kind of stuff happens, it's really hard to keep moving forward with your team, because they have so much momentum and so much the atmosphere around them. Their parents are getting into it. Their bench is getting into it. So it's really hard to fight through moments like that during the games.
How's the sound down there during that? Because everybody is forced kind of into about 3 or 4 sections where you can obviously hear Rough Rider fans pretty much everywhere. It doesn't matter what the sport is. But to hear that noise, are you able to get a lot of that on the field, or is it just that much different than being at home?
Yeah, I definitely heard the crowd during the game, but one thing I noticed is one time I yelled man on and I could hear echo through the entire stadium, which is not something that happens on your regular high school field. So I thought that was pretty cool. But I could definitely hear our fans telling us to keep our heads up and keep working. And I think that that kept us from giving up. It kept us in the game and kept us, even though we were down a few goals, we kept fighting. And I think that has to do with, you looked up in the stands and the majority of it was from St. Mary's, even if it was a 2-hour trip down. So I think hearing them and hearing their support really keeps us in the game and keeps us fighting even when it's not the best situation on the field.
I heard a lot of your fans, and a lot of it I think was the rough play that they thought maybe were fouls at different points. There were the times I was able to isolate individual voices. So it's cool that, you know, they bleed that blue and gold until the end.
Yeah. It's great.
Last weekend, again, I'm not trying to go back to kind of being your last things, but last weekend, your last homecoming, boys get that big win on Friday night. How was your experience with your senior homecoming, and then how hard was it to maybe sort of curtail what you've done the past couple of years because you've got to be up early to play in Columbus the next day?
Yeah, I am a big extrovert, so when school dances come around, I am so excited. I'm on the dance floor from the start of the dance to the finish. So I knew I had to play Canfield the next day, but I obviously wanted to enjoy my last homecoming. So it was a lot of, at the dinner we had before, I made sure to carb up and eat some pasta and not try to stay away from the junk food. But when I got on the dance floor, I made sure to have fun. But as soon as the dance was over, it was time to go to bed and then make sure I get some water in me. I chugged a few water bottles before I went to bed and then hit the hay and woke up ready to go and did a lot of stretching in the morning. And then I took the massage gun on the bus with me.
I mean, I feel like this is a you're wise beyond your years sort of thing.
It was needed. There was no question in my mind that this is what I had to do, because after 3 hours on the dance floor, you got to take care of yourself before playing a game, or else it would not go over well. And I'm feeling it today, 100%.
It's a good thing you don't have to play till Tuesday. Speaking of the extrovert thing, one of the things that I thought was so cool about you is Summerfest. Talk to me a little bit about that. I mean, the bicentennial celebration queen. That's a heck of an honor by itself.
Yeah. When I was younger, actually a decade ago exactly, I was the Little Miss Queen. So one of my friends, great Lady Rider soccer alumni center back, Gabby Keller, she was in the pageant and she was like, Ariel, like, why are you not doing it? And I was like, you know what? I can make the time. And I just don't know what it is about me. If I'm going to do something, I just want to do the best I can. And I want to win. It's just the mentality I've always had. So when I went into the pageant, I was like, well, I'm not just going to do this to do this. I want to win. So, but that was a very, very cool experience. And it was so much fun. Like, I didn't think that I was going to enjoy a pageant as much as I would, because I've kind of been a tomboy my whole life. But it was so empowering as a young woman. It really, being around all those people, all those other girls, it was just a positive environment, and I have nothing bad to say about it.
I would hope not. I mean, well, no, because you won. How cool is it, though, to be able to look over, and I have a daughter, and I think the world of the relationship that you have with your dad, that he's so close to the program. I mean, he's always down there taking amazing pictures and being right in it. Mm-hmm. I've got to imagine that with something like that, he was probably sitting in the front row with about 4 cameras.
No, actually, I don't think he had a camera that day. I think I had a bunch of my family come, so he sat with them, and I think it was recorded, so he knew he didn't have to take pictures.
He probably still had 1 or 2 in his pocket.
He definitely did. I mean, afterwards, he came up on stage and we got a few pictures together, and he made sure to get some of me and the rest of my family, which is really nice.
I'm telling you, he probably had a couple of those old disposable ones. You just didn't see him kind of thumbing through it. He's got to go to CVS later.
Yeah, maybe when I graduate, he'll turn in those cameras to me and tell me that I can
Right.
develop them and
He'll
see
put
all
them
the
in a
pictures
bag and
until
he'll just show up one day.
that's my graduation gift. It'd be a pretty cool one, actually.
Speaking of graduation, so in June, you decided that Wright State University was where you were going to go play soccer. Walk me through how did that end up being the place? Was it because it was close to home, or was it something specific about Dayton and about their program?
There's a few factors. Definitely being close to home was one of them. My parents have done a lot for me my entire soccer journey, and I think that it would kind of be a little backstab to them if I were to just move away and go continue my soccer career after they've put in countless hours driving me to practice and all that kind of stuff. So definitely wanted to stay home and close to my family so they can make it out to my games, or I could go visit them whenever I wanted. But it was also
Or take your laundry home.
yeah, that too.
Yeah, I figured that.
Uh,
Every college kid, that's their answer. Well, I just want them to do my laundry and feed me.
That I mean, now you got me thinking. You're giving me ideas now.
Now I'm going to get emails from your parents. That's just how that's
Yeah.
going to go. But it is cool, though. I can only imagine. I have a feeling my daughter seems to be gravitating towards soccer for some reason. I think it's Michelle Mag, the head coach at OG's influence. But I can only imagine the 5 a.m. Saturdays of having to get up and drive to some random place in the middle of nowhere that has a soccer field of what that does for your
Yeah.
parents. But then the minute that game kicks off, of just seeing them smile and it be all worth it.
Yeah, definitely 100%. After a good game, the drive home with your parents, just talking about every play, there's no better feeling than that.
I'm just going to stare at my daughter blankly when she's, hey, we did a really good job. No, I can call Michelle or somebody else if you'd like to talk about this. I joke, but I do 50 games a year. I don't know. This is, kind of a big, interesting set for you guys. I was talking about what you have coming up, but with the draw where you sit, I mean, you don't know yet because it doesn't happen until Sunday who's in front of you, but you've got a pretty good idea that you'll run back to Columbus where you could maybe potentially run into a team like Canfield again. Is the big bad wolf at the end probably Ontario?
I'm not sure. Ontario, they're always good. I mean, every single year we've played them, and every single year they've brought something different to the field, which is, and every year you can't stop it. But so I think Ontario's definitely they're going to make a good run. But Canfield, I think they were just so unpredictable. So I think that Ontario versus Canfield would be a great matchup. But playing both of them in regular season it was good for us because now we know what to expect in tournament, and playing against those great teams it's only going to make us better. And all we're going to learn from that is how to win and how to work around teams like that. So they would be a good matchup, but I'd like to see either one of those teams in tournament again and hopefully pull out a win, because that would just be very rewarding.
I'd like to see beat both of them. That's just kind of where I'm at right now. But, I mean, Nick's only got, I think, about 320 more wins to catch Phil Simone, the head coach of Canfield. He can do that, right?
Yeah.
He's going to be around
eventually.
that long.
I sure hope so. That'd be 400 wins is crazy. I'd love that for him.
I think that means the soccer program is going to be good for quite a while, and we know that they are. But I have enjoyed this, being able to get to know your family, to get to see you. I got to write an article about how you were going to be one of the top players in the state, which I thought was just duh. But things like you are one of about 30 or 40 girls from the state of Ohio that are nominated for the All-American game. What do honors like that mean? Is that something where you look at it and say, that's so cool, I'd love to be able to cap off a game like that? Or is it kind of nerve-wracking and I have to go there and now the pressure's on because I need to stand out?
It's definitely a little bit of both. My entire soccer career, I haven't really been a nervous type of player. I just know my abilities and I just get out there and play. But those things like this, it's really rewarding. It's really nice to see all the hard work paying off, but it's also like, it makes me want to work that much harder because that expectation, that goal is there to be met. So I need to keep working and just focus on getting there. So I think that it's a little bit of both sides, but I think it's definitely more. It just gives me more motivation.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys when you play LB, and I wish you the best of luck the rest
Mm-hmm.
of the season and beyond.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
That's Ariel Fast talking about all things of her career and about St. Mary's. We'll have some more when we come back here in just a few. Van Wert Physical Therapy, located at 1119 Westwood Drive in Van Wert. Online at vanwertphysicaltherapy.com or over the telephone at 419-771-1073. Don't let pain hold you back from living your best life. Let us help you get back to doing what you love. The preferred physical therapy clinic for athletes from Lincoln View and surrounding schools is independently owned and just celebrated their 5th anniversary. Located directly across from Sycamore Ice Cream on Westwood Drive, Van Wert Physical Therapy treats all types of injuries and post-operative care, not just athletic injuries, with highly skilled physical therapists providing consistent one-on-one care in a great family environment. Whether you're recovering from an injury, surgery, or dealing with chronic pain, we have the expertise to assist you. Van Wert Physical Therapy, 1119 Westwood Drive in Van Wert. Continuing on and talking about the world of the media, the world of soccer, football, basketball, volleyball, everything we've got going on in the next handful of months, I have said repeatedly on this show that the area that we live in Northwest Ohio is blessed to have so many great members of the media, and even to have Jose on, he did well. But the editor of the Kenton Times and Sean Blevins grew up a Columbus kid, goes to Kent State now in Northwest Ohio, doing a terrific job at the Kenton Times. How much of a change was that for you? Because I know that Columbus is a sports-centric city, but Northwest Ohio, I would imagine, is kind of its own different animal.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a big city type of person. So, I was born and raised in Westerville, so. And I went to Kent State for college journalism, graduated in May of 2022. And then now I ended up in Kenton, and my career has really taken off ever since I landed here. I enjoy being a big fish in a small pond, and the relationships that I've built with all the teams. I've grown attached to the soccer programs in Kenton and the football team, and that's really. I just immersed myself in covering sports like 24/7 because I don't really have much to do in a small town, so. So yeah, I've gotten really dedicated. I just love writing really long stories about the teams I cover. And I couldn't have found a better first job out of college.
That's such a cool thing, though, because in a way, it's perfect for someone your age that exactly what you're saying, to kind of piggyback on it, where I put my head down, I do my work. Well, I mean, the joke is always, what else am I going to do? Watch the corn grow?
Exactly.
It's a great way to learn, though, too, in your first job. I don't think maybe people I've talked to over the years, especially in broadcasting and in journalism, don't maybe understand that of, yeah, I'm from a big city. I want to go work in Chicago. I want to go work at the New York Times. I want to go work in LA or whatever. But so does everybody else who worked there that worked for 30 years to get to that point. It is maybe, I don't want to say it's easier, but it's easier for me looking at it from a storytelling perspective of, if you come to a place like Kenton and work at the Kenton Times and work with what is a high school crazy atmosphere, that you get to tell stories that and learn and cut your teeth, so to speak, that maybe you wouldn't if you went to go work at, a big city paper.
Exactly. I remember when I first started out after college, when I was searching for a job, it took me about 3 months to find a job out of college. That was a painful period of time because I was just going through multiple interviews. I thought I wanted to be like a college football recruiting reporter at one point. And then I was a stringer for the Delaware Gazette for about a year, just covering like a football game a week or a basketball game a week. And then I realized, high school sports is definitely where it's at. I like covering you just grow an attachment to the teams that you cover, and it means a lot more to the smaller communities.
which is both good and bad, I think, because you get that attachment, but then you have to remember of, okay, I also have to tell a story sometimes when it isn't necessarily the story that people would like for it to be out there.
Yeah, and oddly, there's been two teams that I cover that will probably end up winless. The Ridgemont girls basketball team last year, they ended up winless, and then the Kenton girls will go for their first win today. But oddly, the teams that are winless have become two of my favorite teams to cover. It's difficult, just covering loss after loss, but you find the positives in it, and then you try to paint a good picture about the team.
It's funny you say it that way because I've always maintained that in broadcasting, everybody wants to, call the game-winning touchdown or the game-winning shot or the home run that wins in the bottom of the last inning. But I've always said to people that that's great. Any idiot can do that. But can you tell me a story where your team is getting blown out and make it interesting to me? And it would be kind of the same similar challenge of what you're saying of, okay, this is X number of loss, but what's the hook here that people will want to read this and not just go, well, Sean's going to write about another loss.
Exactly. You just have to find the positives and try to get something out of it.
We talked a little bit about this, kind of going in about what we were going to talk about, and you mentioned it about girls soccer. You look at the Western Buckeye League tonight, as it's Tuesday as we tape this. There are some big matchups. I think no two bigger than St. Mary's at Elida, because the Rough Riders, who you just heard from Ariel Fast a little bit ago about her trip to Columbus, lost to Canfield 5-0 on Sunday, trying to stay in that league race. They're probably big fans of Shawnee today, who take on at number 1 ranked Ottawa Glandorf. Then you've got Bath and Wapak, Salida Defiance in the game you were referencing, Van Wert and Kenton. When you look at the Western Buckeye League with girls soccer, I mean, I know there's probably an obvious answer here, but what jumps out to you?
Obviously, just the consistency of Ottawa Glandorf. I saw them twice last year. They smacked Ken, and then they beat Riverdale in the regional semifinal. I think it was 3-0. But they're back at it this year, still undefeated. And yeah, obviously the Titans are the favorites to win the girls soccer WBL title, and as you said, Elida's up there.
Yeah, and Elida, I don't know if it's surprising to me. I mean, I saw them on the turf at Ottawa Glandorf a couple of weeks ago, 10-3-1 on the year. But the crazy thing about the way the WBL has been, Kenton at 1-14 overall, Van Wert at 0-12, Defiance is 2-8, but you go from 7 up, and everybody has a 500 or better record. Shawnee is the weird outlier, though. They're 4-3 and 6. 6 ties in 13 games to me is insane, but you'd have to add up. The rest of the league only has 5 ties altogether.
Yeah, 6 ties in like 11 games is pretty crazy.
I'm not even quite sure how that works, to be honest with you, but if you look a little bit deeper, why I did, because I'm a nerd, they have 5 of those at home, and that's not a surprise. I talked to Michelle Mag, and her big takeaway was, if you have to play them at home, you better pray that you're playing them on the road at your place, because they are very good at home, and I'm not really sure if I've seen a team that is that different over the years of home versus away. They take home field advantage to apparently a completely different meaning.
Yeah, especially in WBL, home field advantages. It's a gauntlet, so yeah, home field advantage comes into play. You're obviously going to be more used to playing on your own surface.
This is Kenton and St. Mary's week in a lot of ways. Boys soccer had St. Mary's beat Kenton 6-0 yesterday. What is it about this Kenton team on the boys' side? I mean, I love their coach. He's been on this show. He's one of those guys who I think you would run through a wall or at least try to throw somebody else through the wall for. He's just got that kind of – I give him a little bit of swag.
Yeah, the boys, I love covering the Kenton boys. So this summer I actually traveled with the team to a lot of their camps, and I covered every single one of their summer league games. And so they went to Ohio Wesleyan University for a team camp, which is in Delaware, and then they went to Yellow Springs for a tournament. They saw a lot of really good D1 competition, and I think that has really prepared them for the gauntlet that is the WBL. The Canton boys are 7-5-2 with 3 games left on the schedule. They've played so many tough teams, and they've done really well. So they're a very underrated group. They have tough losses to Allen East, Salina, Elida, St. Mary's, and Bowling Green. But last week they shocked Wapak at Wapak too. And you honestly, but you never really know what you're going to get with them. Sometimes they'll play up to the competition, and then sometimes, like the last 2 games, like back-to-back 6-0 losses against 2 super good teams like St. Mary's yesterday. Kenton outplayed them for about 35 minutes, and then St. Mary's got a goal, and the floodgates opened, and then errors compounded. St. Mary's ends up winning 6-0. So, but anytime you lose 11 seniors from your team, it's going to be tough. But they've done remarkably well. They've come a long way since the start of the summer. I just love covering the program, and Coach Jamie Bartlett and then assistant Jordy Martin, they do remarkably well.
I asked him about Yellow Springs if he saw Dave Chappelle down there. He said no. And they also, I believe, went up to the Cleveland area and played in Strongsville over the summer where my wife's from. And he said that was nice. But
They did.
What's cool to me is, and I read this article, and for people who don't, they need to, that you've gotten close enough with this team that maybe you've also done what we all do, but yours is stuck. You've given them nicknames.
Occasionally, there's one kid, Marlon Lopez, is a sophomore forward. I came up with the nickname the Hunter and Wonder Kid last year when I did a feature story on him. But he's a kid from Honduras, ended up in Kenton of all places, and he had a really good freshman year, and he's got 3 goals and 4 assists on the year this year. Still growing as a player, still got a long way to go. But yeah, obviously I've grown so close with the team, and I love covering them.
Volleyball is a very odd thing because as I look at the Western Buckeye League, Kenton is sitting at the bottom. They're 1-5. But what kind of blows my mind about it is they have a similar thing that Ottawa Glandorf has. The Titans are 6-0 in the WBL, but they're 9-10 overall. Kenton is 1-5 in the WBL, but they're 9-5 overall. I don't know how to explain any of this.
Yeah, it's been a very challenging season for Kenton volleyball. They beat up on the non-conference opponents and then ran into the gauntlet. You know, it's tough when you're going against OG, Salina, Defiance, Wapak.
And of course,
actually
state-ranked
Kenton volleyball. Yeah, that's right. State-ranked Shawnee, and they play St. Mary's today. Actually, it's at St. Mary's.
It never ends. I try to get to more things, and that's why I've always had a respect for you, because if you have 2 things at home, you can get to both. I'm only able to lug equipment to one thing. Maybe that means I should get less equipment.
Yeah, I love the nights when soccer and volleyball are going on at the same time for whole events. I just walk back and forth between the 2, and it's always such a thrill, you know.
It is such a cool thing, though, to be able to have everything be that close. Like I said, it never works out for me. But the oddity is there are 4 teams in the WBL, Salina, Defiance, Wapak, Bath, and then Elida's at 9-9, that are all under 500, but they're all middle or top of the league. And I just don't understand. I guess it goes back to show you how good the WBL is.
Yeah, every single sport we will beat the drum here. You know, it's just WBL is just such a gauntlet that every game matters, and you never know what you'll get. Like Kenton, obviously they're 10-6, but 1-5 in the WBL.
Speaking of that, you never know what you're going to get. Football is a big week in the Western Buckeye League. 5-2 teams meet in Wampauck when Elida comes to town. OG's still searching for their first win. Unfortunately for the Titans, it's probably not going to be this weekend as they travel to 6-1 Salina, who, by the way, are ranked in the state polls, if you believe in that sort of thing. 4-3 Bath at 5-2 Defiance. That game, other than the one we're going to talk about in a second, may be the most interesting to me because it's kind of finding out which one of those teams is legit. Bath at 4-3 has had some bad luck. Defiance, of course, lost their starting running back in the St. Mary's game. I don't know that he's come back yet. And then 0-7 Shawnee is probably going to get pummeled in Van Wert at Edgar Stadium with a very ticked-off Van Wert team at 4-3. But for anybody who knows anything about Kenton, Ohio, you know that they're pretty into their football. 2-5 on the year, but it's an improvement over last year, taking on a St. Mary's team that's won 3 straight to get to 3-4 and has got designs on being 500 going into a pair of home games in week 9 and 10. On paper, this matchup usually comes down to one thing. Kenton's ability to throw the football, St. Mary's ability to run the football. It's not a secret. Either Kent throws, in one case, almost 80 times in a game. When we were there, it would be 6 or 7 years ago. Or St. Mary's runs 60 times and is effective at taking the clock and not letting Kenton have the ball. This year, both teams have kind of lived and died by that mantra, and it's worked out a little bit more for Kenton. And I talked to Zach Turner in the preseason. He said, we're going to be better than last year. We've got a quarterback who's able to do some things, to see the field differently, more maturely. Explain how Kenton's got 2-5 for people who aren't aware.
Yeah, so the Kenton football team, I cover them every single week, obviously, since we're the Kenton Times. But they are light years ahead of where they were last year. They are 2-5 and 2-4 in the WBL. They beat Bath and OG. That was the Bath game. That was easily the craziest thing I've ever covered. But for those that don't know, Corbin Johnson threw like a 55-yard Hail Mary to beat Bath. Smacked OG. But yeah, Ken's offense is light years ahead of where it was last year, and a large part of that is just the improvement of junior gunslinger Corbin Johnson. So he trained this offseason actually in Georgia with Quincy Avery, who's a renowned QB trainer. And my God, that has paid dividends for him. So but the biggest improvement in his game is his mobility. Last year, I think he only had less than 100 rushing yards. This year, he has close to 600 rushing yards because when they get into the red zone, they just know they can do a QB power or run it up the middle with Corbin, and he'll get first down, or he has 9 or 10 rushing touchdowns on the year and about, I think, 12 passing touchdowns. He's become like the most productive player in the WBL, but he also sustained a hip injury 2 weeks ago, so that left him sidelined for a lot of last week's game, which they ended up losing. It's probably a game time decision this week, not entirely sure.
I'm also sad, though, that this is the end of an era in Kenton football because the 29-12 loss in week 1 on the road in Coldwater was the very last time they'll play the Cavaliers.
Yeah, I'm sad to see that rivalry come to a close, but
because that's been historically one of the most fun rivalries for Kenton fans, probably not lately, but over the years of, each team has had some just terrific teams that have gone back and forth, and I know that a lot of it was, why the hell do we have to have to go all the way out to Kenton? Why do we have to go all the way out to Coldwater? And then maybe they use that as a chip of, that's a long drive home if you don't perform well.
Yeah, I think Coldwater wanted to play the rival. Obviously, Coldwater's won the last several, so I think they wanted more competition in a week 1 game. And then Kenton agreed to a 2-year contract with Pemberville Eastwood to open with them in the 24-25 seasons.
Well, Bowling Green's a little bit closer. Week 2 was one that I remember reading the scores and kind of being perplexed by with OG. They win that shootout 52-29, but if memory serves, OG actually led in that game, right?
Yes, OG was up 29-20, and then Kenton goes ballistic for 32 points in the fourth quarter, which I don't know if I've ever seen anything like it. It just Kenton goes down, scores a touchdown, then they get a pick six to take the lead, I believe, and then they ended up adding 2 more touchdowns after some turnovers. Just football's one of those sports. Once the errors compound, you can end up, and Kenton goes for 2 every time. So they got every single 2-point conversion, and then they ended up with 52 points.
I can't imagine what would happen if Kenton had a kid who could hit 50-yard field goals come through the program, and everybody's just like, meh, we're just going to go ahead and go for 2. Oh, okay.
Special teams has become, it is a little bit of a challenge. They just go for 2 every time. They don't kick field goals. But if they had somebody that could, then games might end up a little different. Who knows? They might not have needed a Hail Mary to beat Bath 38-34.
I mean, yes, but that prayer was answered. And both of those games were 2 of the craziest things. I can only imagine being at them, because I remember looking down and seeing that score, and I'm like, okay, it's 29-22. Wait a minute. Okay, now OG's losing. Wait a minute. Now OG's down 2 touchdowns. Wait a minute. What's going on there? And like you said, once that snowball catches, it just takes off. But a rough sledding with back-to-back weeks with Salina and Defiance. 2 really good defenses, and in Defiance's case, their offense has gotten a lot better the last couple of years, kind of similar to what you were talking about with Kenton at times. But looking at this week and then kind of looking past, with St. Mary's at home, on the road at Van Wert, and then home for Shawnee, what's realistic for Kenton the next 3 weeks?
It really honestly depends if Corbin is healthy enough to play this Friday. And then Shawnee is obviously one of the bottom of the pack, probably the worst team in the WBL. So I think Kenton beats them, but St. Mary's is a toss-up depending on how good St. Mary's comes out and if Corbin plays or not. And then obviously Van Wert on the 13th will be a tough one, but they've struggled a little bit in the past couple weeks.
I'm not sure about this because my name's not Joe Idle, but I'm trying to do some math right now. As we go into this game, St. Mary's is 15th in Region 14 in Division 4. Kenton is behind them in 17th. The big bad uglies are sitting up there at the top in Sandusky, Perkins, Glenville, and Shelby. Not places you want to go. But I would think that if Kenton could win 2 out of the last 3, that they would probably be able to do themselves enough to get somewhere in the 13-14 range. What's the insanity of that thought? That to just the way they started out and the way that kind of last year ended, to potentially being a playoff team early this season.
Yeah, the players want it, the coaches want it. Comes down to the final 3 weeks. This week is pretty much a de facto playoff game. Like if St. Mary's wins, they're guaranteed a spot pretty much. If Kenton wins, they could end up jumping St. Mary's for the last spot or end up jumping up to 15. Who knows? And then Shawnee, Kenton should be able to beat them even with the backup QB. But yeah, it's a de facto playoff game this week. And so can you offer some insight into how St. Mary's has won 3 in a row?
They're able to run the football. It's not really a thing to me. People will figure it out. Kenton throws the football, St. Mary's runs. No, the tackles that St. Mary's was missing early in the year, they've not missed the last couple of weeks. I mean, OG obviously is a team that has issues right now. Van Wert, St. Mary's kept from blowing that lead more than anything. Ended up winning 21-19, got a stop on a 2-point conversion with less than a minute to go in that game. A lot of it is a product of Shawnee and OG are not good, but St. Mary's has kind of finally found their swag. going back to the Defiance game, I mean, they were in that game, gave up a touchdown that kind of was a backbreaker, and then after that gave up another one. Wapak, they had a chance to pick up a fourth down conversion. I still say the ball was down at the 3. The apparent thought is the ball or the knee was at the 6. The line of scrimmage was the 5. I don't know. And then they got stopped on a goal line stand. So it's not like they haven't been in games other than week 1, which is just, I don't even know anymore, 2 months ago now. It's crazy because Bo Fry has gone through a lot. If he's not bipolar, and I'm not meaning to make light of that, I'm just being honest, for this season, I don't really know anything because this is a team that it's got designs. I mean, 2-5 Kenton on the road, and then 5-2 Elida, 4-3 Bath, teams that they have had their way with the last handful of years. But St. Mary's is getting healthy, and their offensive line is a lot better than they were in the early weeks. That's really my takeaway.
Yeah, it'll be an exciting game, and I'm sure I'll see you up there in the press box.
What else have you got going on right now?
I pretty much just spend all my days working and just hanging out with friends, really. I go down to Columbus like once every week on the weekends whenever I'm on a Saturday night or Sundays.
Well, I can tell you that I have enjoyed your work. I've enjoyed getting to know you, and I hope that you just continue to do great work.
I appreciate that, and you do great work as well, especially covering the OG girls.
At Sean_Blevins 1, and also on the, I'm not even going to call it the X, the Bird that crazy guy owns.
The Bird app.
Yeah, it's on the Bird app. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, and I hope to be back on here in the future, and I'll see you on Friday.
That's going to happen. Back with more here in just a few minutes. Are you in Spencerville and looking for a place to eat before the Bearcats play? Well then, head to my place, 128 North Broadway, for deep-fried mushrooms, chili cheese fries, the best pie around, and soup of the day. If you're in a hurry and just want to order some to go, you can give Doug and his staff a call at 419-647-4062, and they'll have it ready for you. My Place Restaurant at 128 North Broadway in Spencerville, a proud supporter of Bearcat Athletics. Thanks to Sean and Ariel for coming on the show and talking about all things going on in St. Mary's and in Kenton. Big week of high school football, week number 8. The other fall draws are this weekend. They come up on Sunday, as we're already to the point where we figure out how teams are going to get their run to their respective finals underway. A big soccer matchup tonight if you're listening to this on Tuesday. If not, you can go back on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/WZOQ radio and listen to it as the number 1 ranked Audible Glendorf Lady Titans try to continue their 27-match unbeaten streak. That, by the way, they've been outscoring opponents 152-2. That's just a thing. As they take on Shawnee in Lima. Titans haven't won there since 2015. Please go out and give your support to local athletes. A lot of games are free. Some games are cheap. OHSA gets their money on some games. But there's nothing else like high school sports. You heard Sean talk about it. You heard Ariel opine as well. Please go out and do that. Check out games this weekend. I'll be in Kenton. That doesn't mean you have to be there. You can hear it on K94 if you aren't able to do so. But just continue to support high school athletics. After all, that's what this show is all about. Thanks to you for listening. Hit me up on Twitter at Michael Hearn PBP. You can find me on Facebook as well, or maybe around your local gym or field. Have a great night and an even better tomorrow from around the Hearn.
Here I go. We hope you've enjoyed this edition of Around the Hearn. Come back next week for more local stories from the NWO. But until then, be sure to follow us on Twitter at Michael Hearn PBP for more great area content.